Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Recruitment Uncensored. As always, it's me, Kate, as the host. I've got a different guest on with me this week. I've got Darren, CEO of Paiger. Say hi, Darren. Give us a
Hi,
wave. Fresh from
Jazz hands.
Benidorm.
Fresh from Benidorm somehow. Who knows? Who knows how? But somehow fresh from Benidorm.
Yeah, I am. To be fair, I am pretty impressed because if I just come back from Benidorm, I would not be as fresh. So, yeah, really excited to have you on today. We are going to be talking about something that I am super hot on this and really passionate about it. So I'm really excited to hear kind of Darren's perspective on it all. But it's about we're going to be talking about how you can get your personal branding right from the get-go as a starter because it's so difficult when you start a business, an agency, because you are juggling so many things. You've got a lot to think about. But the one thing that I personally see people neglect is the personal branding, and it is so important. So that is what we're going to be covering today. If you're watching live, any questions that you've got for Darren, chuck them in. We will bring as many up as we can. Any that we don't get time to answer, we'll both jump on the chat after anyway. So definitely chuck any comments you've got in. But I'm going to get cracking because we've got loads to cover. So, first question I had for you: what are the long-term benefits in investing in your personal branding from the start? Because it is an investment, isn't it?
It is, and people need to remember that. The biggest mistake I see is people think they're going to get a return in month one, when that's just not
Yeah,
how it works. If we go back to university, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, they taught the 7 touch points for someone to trust you to do business with you. In the digital age, that's more like 33 touch points. So if you think about that, it takes a while to build up those touch points, and consistency is going to be key. And if you don't do it from the start, you're always behind. So when you first
yeah,
start your business, you're going to say, right, I'm going to create a website. I'm going to get my social media handles. I'm going to start writing blogs, and then I've got to do my BD. Which one of those things are you going to prioritize? And for me, when you first start, you've got no brand equity. Nobody knows your brand. They know you. So the thing to concentrate on is you. You're the superpower at that point. You've got people that know you. And you're really, if I said the 2 things you need to concentrate on, it's business development. You need to bring jobs on,
yeah,
but
agree.
also your personal brand. Your personal brand is going to help with that long-term marketing. It's going to help you achieve your results for next quarter, maybe not this month, but next quarter. And you need to see it as an investment that could take up to a year, and up to a year for you to actually say, right, I'm seeing regular inbound inquiries, whether that's candidates and clients, and you need to be able to put the effort in. And if you don't, like I say, the big thing for me is people always say, "Oh, I wish I did this sooner. I wish I did this sooner." Well, do it from
Yeah,
day one. Do it from day one, and over time, you can then invest in your company brand. I think you could start a recruitment business today without a website. If you just had your
yeah.
LinkedIn, your personal brand, and you had a phone, right? Then your website. That's your start. That's your start of brand equity. Then you're talking about getting traffic to it. That's your blogs. You run those in parallel, but the thing you're going to see a return from day one, if you get it right, is going to be your personal brand. And that's where, yeah, it's one of those things that people neglect at the start. And if you do that, you're setting your business up for failure in sort of month 12 rather than month one.
And you made your BD harder because I think the one thing, and the only reason I did this, I read before I set my business up, I read like a business book, and it was like outsource the things that you're not confident in. And at the time, I was like, marketing, I haven't got a fucking clue. I'm going to get someone else to do it. So I had help with my marketing from day one, but having that brand took time to build. I'd say it took about a year, as you said, to get like real traction from it, but it was well worth it. And now, coming up to 4 years in, I'm constantly seeing the positive results from doing that early on. And it has made my business development so much easier, like a million times easier, because now I can pick up the phone to an agency and half the time they already know who I am. So
Yeah,
don't.
I mean, my background is in tech, so I was a software developer before Paiger. So the idea of actually picking up a phone scared the shit out of me when I first started the business. Right, I wasn't a people person. I used to sit with headphones on and try to avoid people. So when I realised actually I need to do BD, I need to bring in business. My go-to was to post on LinkedIn, right? Because I've got valuable things to say and I can make an impact. And quickly realized that I could try and phone 100 people today, or I can reach 10,000 people with a really good post that's valuable and build up those trust points that way. And when I do I don't know, slide into their DMs, if you like, on LinkedIn, or pick up the phone, they actually know who I am, so they're more responsive. It's not a cold call at that point. It's a very warm call. And as long as you're delivering value, people want to speak to you.
Yeah. And I think what you said there as well is like I've got a company page on LinkedIn. I post on it, but it doesn't get as good engagement. It's the personal page that does for me. But, even if I had employees in the business, and it's the same if you're an agency and you've got consultants, like each person needs to have their own personal brand, because as you pointed out, there's not another one of them. So there's hundreds of thousands of recruiters in the UK, but they can't replicate you as a person. Like that is your superpower, is your personality. So it baffles me sometimes when people aren't using it.
Yeah, and you've got to remember, most recruitment agencies now aren't generalists, right? We've all specialised, and
Yeah.
at their level, even if you're a tech recruitment company, one recruiter will do DevOps, one recruiter will do software, another recruiter might just do Python developers. So everybody's got their niche, everybody's got their audience, and from day one, they need to decide, right, who are the personas I want to reach, and how am I going to reach them? So the long-term benefit for me there is understand your audience, understand your desk, and then work out how you're going to reach that audience in the best way, in the most consistent way. And it's a reason we're not specialists. You've got a reason we're not generalists. We've all shifted to specialist recruiters. It makes building a personal brand possible. If you're a generalist recruiter, it's really hard to try and appeal to everybody.
Yeah, it makes it difficult.
I can share CV writing tips, right? But that's not interesting. So remember, you're a specialist for a reason, and you are the expert. You're speaking to people day in, day out. There will be conversations that happen where you think, actually, that can help more people. When you think that, that's a LinkedIn post.
Yeah, 100%. What have you seen as being the biggest, because obviously you work with lots of different agencies, don't you? So in terms of like a long-term benefit, what have you seen with an agency that's more of a startup that's invested that time? What have you seen as like their biggest return from actually doing it from day one?
So it depends on what their goals are. If it's a lifestyle business, which a lot of solopreneurs are, for me, it means that actually you can have a better lifestyle. So if you've got inbound inquiries coming to you, you've got candidates coming to you, you're spending less time working that part of the business, right? So actually that lifestyle business does become a lifestyle business. There's so many people I speak to are in peaks and troughs. They've had a good month, and then they take their foot off the gas for a little while, and then actually in 2 months' time they've got to go full on BD. If you're doing personal branding correctly, you will have a steady stream of inbound inquiries. So that's, for me, is the number one benefit for lifestyle businesses. For businesses that want to scale up, for me, it's getting your face out there known. It's going to help you with your hiring. It's going to help you with your BD. But actually, it will enable you to scale up your business a lot quicker. When it comes to hiring, people want to work with someone they know, they feel like they know, and they associate success with you, right? They see you on LinkedIn regularly.
Trust as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so I do think it helps you with hiring. That's a big one for me as you scale up your business. But also business development, constantly hitting the phone. I think we're shifting to a world now where there's a new generation that phone first isn't going to be the approach. I speak to people all the time that during COVID, they had top biller recruiters because they didn't have to do BD, and now they're struggling. So I think for those people, we have to realize there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's email marketing, there's phone calls, there's also personal branding. And for me, it's got to be one of the things you do. Ideally, you're doing all three of those things. That's my ideal, is you would be doing all three.
I think you've got to have it's like what you said about understanding your target market, that everybody is, let's use the software developers, or their managers, you're going to be going after them. You've got to think about, okay, well, I might like picking up the phone, but actually I've got to think, what are my target market? How am I going to eventually I want to speak to them, but how am I going to get them to want to speak to me? So what are the ways? And it could be they see your post and they become familiar. You might pop them a LinkedIn message, but you want all those tools, don't you? So you've got these different sort of outreach methods, but the personal branding just complements everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we've concentrated on LinkedIn a lot right now. Obviously, we're live on LinkedIn, so we talk about LinkedIn, but I just see LinkedIn as a community. Now, if you're talking about tech or just find where your community is. It might not be LinkedIn. It might be Reddit. It might be Hacker News. Just wherever it is your community actually hangs out, that's where you need to hang out. So LinkedIn's a great platform, but it doesn't mean that every developer's on here. So if you're going to do a post on LinkedIn, why not also put that post onto a subreddit? Repurpose the content you're doing and make sure you're in the right community.
Yeah. I do a lot of training with some temp agencies that do things like warehouse logistics drivers. They're not on LinkedIn. It's Facebook, for example. So, so they might do a bit more on that platform. So yeah, you've got to work out where your audience are. Oh, we've had a comment come in already. I heard this was the best show on LinkedIn. Of course, it is the best show on LinkedIn. That's probably the best comment they've ever had, actually. Thanks, Dominic. Um, right, let's go on to question two. Um, so we talked about like the long-term benefits and investing in it, which is clearly important. I think for a lot of people watching, especially in that startup phase, people want to know like what steps do I need to take to build it from scratch? Because some people are like kind of like I was when I started my business, like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. So what would you say are the steps for them to do?
So the first one is, remember, you're not posting for yourself, you're posting for your audience. So the first thing to do, as with any marketing campaign, is to define your audience. Which personas are you trying to reach? Think about your business challenges right now. Do I have a challenge in getting new jobs, or do I have a challenge finding great candidates? Pick one of them. Don't try and do both at the start. So let's say it's finding new jobs. Okay, so my persona that I'm trying to reach is hiring managers at these types of companies that work in these industries. Cool. Let's start mapping those people out a little bit and thinking about what would they be interested in, what events do they go to, what news articles they read, what podcasts they listen to. I want you to consume that content. The best way to produce content is to consume it. So I'd map out your audience, map out what they're consuming, and then give your opinion on it. To start, if you want to just get started, just share the content so you become the go-to person that actually, if I connect with this person, if I follow this person, I'm going to consume the sort of content that I like. But I want you to take a step forward from there and actually put your opinion on it. So if you listen to the podcast, this is my opinion on it. I found this news article that affects your industry. Maybe it's a new regulation from the government. Maybe it's a funding announcement, whatever it may be. Give your opinion on it. You go from not knowing what to talk about, which is, I think, is normally people's first hurdle. They get writer's block. But actually, if you know your persona you're talking to, know what content they're consuming, it's really easy for you to produce content once you actually embed yourself in that community, in that persona. Like I say, the big thing though is just pick one and stick with it, and you need to be consistent. Don't just post once a week. Ideally, you're going to post 2-3 times a week. I'd love it to be every single day, but always deliver value. Don't sell.
Yeah.
You've got plenty of places to sell. Your headline on LinkedIn goes with every single post. That's how people know what you do. You can put a comment if you want to, but that actual post you're delivering needs to be a valuable post that actually has an opinion. And if you don't feel like you can put an opinion, just get started by sharing the content. You will form an opinion over time.
Yeah. And I think, like you just highlighted, it's starting with the little steps that get the habits built up and then you progress from there. But I think, people, like you said, they don't want to see loads of sales posts. And actually, the value posts are kind of soft selling you anyway. So, because like you said, you're that go-to person. But yeah, get your opinions on there. Like people want it. I think people worry, like, oh, what if I upset somebody, or what if somebody doesn't agree? You can't please everybody. And
No,
actually,
you can't.
sometimes it doesn't matter if they don't agree. It creates a nice discussion. They still like the fact that you've given an opinion anyway. It just makes
Yeah,
things more
and it will
interesting to
fade
say.
away. Even if you have one post that you consider to be slightly controversial, it won't be remembered next week. It just won't. People don't care that much. So I would just put your opinion out there, back up your opinion. He's about to back it up. But the other thing is to think about the conversations you're having throughout the day. If you can't find content they consume, you're talking to these people every day, inside and out.
Yeah.
So maybe one of them mentioned the struggle when you're talking about, oh, how did the candidate do an interview? Okay, why is that important to you? Why was that trait really important to you? Okay, so I'm speaking to people where this trait in a candidate is really important. That's going to be my post. Why is this trait important in this industry? Throughout the day, just have a notebook next to your pen and just write down snippets and
Content
turn them
ideas.
and yeah, but it doesn't need to be like a big content calendar. I'm not asking for, a whiteboard sticky notes. And literally a pen and pad where you just write 2 or 3 things that happen throughout the day, and they're your post ideas for the next day.
Yeah, it's a great tip because it's straightforward to do. I've got the notes in your phone, because sometimes I'll get ideas like, rarely it's in this room. I'll be out and about doing things in the gym, whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Or I've had a conversation, I've been training with an agency and I think, oh, that would be a good post. Yeah, you don't, like you said, you can have a content calendar if you want. We don't need to. As long as you've got a little note by your desk, you can just drop a post up for that day.
Yeah, you don't need to complicate it. And ironically, obviously, I'm a rec tech provider. You don't need software to get started, right? For me, software should solve a challenge you already have. Maybe it's been too time consuming. You shouldn't really use software to get started. You should try to do things yourself and then buy software to fill in the gaps. I think so many people get shiny toy syndrome and they go, "Oh, I need this technology."
Yeah.
Actually, try it
I can't
yourself.
do it until I've got that piece of tech.
Yeah, maybe you can't do it because you don't have time, in which case you need tech, right? I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
But until you've tried something and maybe you aren't as consistent as you like, there's a pain there. That's when you should go shopping.
Yeah. Yeah, I think because I was quite overwhelmed when I started doing my own marketing myself. It was only August last year because I'd had a company help me out with it for the whole other time of my business.
Mm.
And initially I was a bit like, oh God, what am I doing? But it took me about a week to get into the habit and get used to doing it myself. And I post Monday to Friday. And then it was like, oh, actually, I've got a bit of a flow around this now and it feels all right. It's just getting started, isn't it? You've got to get started to get into that positive habit of doing it.
Yeah, and I think habit's the right word. You need it to be a habit, and software can enforce the habit, but you need to have the want for the habit, the need for the habit in the first place. So, yeah, I think that's the big takeaway here is the first step is to do it yourself, find out what works for you, but don't overcomplicate it. So many people want the perfect process. I don't want perfect. I just want good. And the same goes for your content. I don't want perfect content. I'm quite happy with good content. Just get something out there. Good content's better than no content.
And what is perfect anyway with content? Because it's all down to how people perceive it. So I could write up a post. We've all done it. You do a post, you think that is banging. That engagement's going to go out off the chart, and you check your stats the next day, and you're like, tumbleweeds. I've had one like. Just like you just never know. You've just got to try things, haven't you? And sometimes the things that you think are shit ends up being the posts that do absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and even if you have a post that's like you said you thought was brilliant and it was tumbleweed, just delete it and reuse it, because you got to remember you're competing for people's attention. That's ultimately what the LinkedIn feed is, and it could be that next to your post, unfortunately, there was another post that was just slightly more attention grabbing, maybe a different color. It could be anything. People scroll past purely because of what was next. So don't delete it and then think, well, I'm never posting that again. Delete it and then actually repurpose it in a month's time. People won't remember if they saw it because you just said yourself you didn't get the engagement. So, and if someone says, yeah, I've reposted it, it doesn't matter. So if you think it's great, it probably is. It's just that you're competing for attention
for a
in a
different
very,
time.
very busy place. Yeah, save it for a different time, reuse it, repurpose it.
Save for a day you're struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. But don't beat yourself up about it. You know, so many people get obsessed with the amount of likes and comments they get, especially on job posts, which blows my mind because nobody's liking the fact you're hiring. All they're doing is telling their current employer they're looking for a new job. No one's going to like those posts. So don't beat yourself up about likes and comments. Instead, measure it over a good period of time and then see what inbound inquiries you're getting, those messages. And I guarantee that's when you see ROI. You'll be able to track actual placements as a result.
And you'd be surprised, like, I'm sure this has happened to me at least once, where I had a post that I honestly, engagement-wise, and the stats didn't do well, but somebody talked to me about it in a conversation. Oh, I like that post. Sometimes people will scroll and not like or comment because maybe they don't have time, but they still doesn't mean that they didn't enjoy it or recognize it. So I think, yeah, you've got to like sometimes just get out of your own head about the numbers that you see on the screen around some of these things, don't you? And just kind of get on with it.
We call them LinkedIn lurkers. So there's lots of LinkedIn lurkers, and you will find that you'll be on the phone with somebody and they say, "Oh yeah, I saw your post on X, Y, Z." And you think nobody commented. Nobody.
Why didn't you like it then?
but they don't, right? But that's where I guess the answer is faith. You've got to have faith that people are seeing your content, and that's why so many people give up too early. And so they say, "No, I tried that, didn't work for me. Tried that, didn't work for me." How long did you try it for? Oh, 3 weeks. Okay, you need to try it.
It kills me when people say that.
Yeah, I tried it. Didn't work. Yeah.
Well, that leads us nicely actually on what I wanted to ask you next, because there are going to be people watching that we've talked about struggling to find time already that will be thinking, yeah, well, this is all amazing, but like I haven't got time to do it, or I'm really struggling to find the time. Or I tried it before and it didn't work, again, relating it to time. So what are your tips for people watching that are kind of kind of going through that at the moment?
So my biggest one, actually, you need to make the time. Which I can't just make the time. You can. If you look at your calendar right now, I guarantee you're probably busy for the next 2-3 weeks. But in 3 weeks' time, you'll have a lull. And what happens is you make yourself busy. You fill up your calendar. You go, yeah, I can do that time. I can do that time. I can do that time. Right now, go to 3 weeks' time in your calendar and block out half an hour every single day for posting. And if you do that, it will become habit. You can't do it now, I get it, but in 3 weeks' time you can if you block it out and you commit to keeping that time free. What you've got to do is make it important. All you're actually doing is saying posting on LinkedIn is not important to me. What's more important is this phone call that I'm going to make or this meeting I've got to have. So you've got to change your priority list first to say, actually, posting on LinkedIn is going to be something that I'm going to value, and I'm going to do it religiously, and I'm going to do it for 3 months, and I'm going to measure results. If you do that, straight away, you will find the time. So we found the time now, which is great. Now it's all about what are you going to post. We've already gone through how you can write down things throughout the day, consume content. For me, the consuming content is the biggest thing, especially for new recruiters. If you think about grad intakes, someone that's a grad and say, you are now an expert in recruiting for machine learning developers. And they go, okay, I am. Right. But the reality is they need to be. So the first thing I would do is consume podcasts. I would listen to them, news articles. I'd read them every single day. YouTube videos, a bit like this. If you're watching on YouTube, I would make a point of actually watching some of that during my block time. So I've got that half an hour slot. Maybe I've watched 10 minutes of consumed content and I've got time to write about it afterwards. So for me, the biggest thing is carve out the time, shift it in your priorities, and then consume to then create. And if you can do that, it will only take you half an hour a day, but you will start to see the results.
And remember, like, you can post something personal sometimes as well. So say, for example, even if you're consuming the content, like there might be a day where you're like, oh, I wonder what I can post. Well, also people want an insight into you. So post, it might be something about, I don't know, a personal thing that's happened in your life, or, you're not going to do it every day, but people do want to see that as well, don't they? They want that. That's part of what builds your brand.
People buy from people, right? And no matter what happens in technology, that's never going to change. I'm a big believer in that. So I don't think it should be the only thing you post, but I would, in your content plan, if you like, a very loose content plan, I would think about putting some part of you out there as well. Just because people want to know that you're human, right? People want to know that actually I resonate with you. And again, those trust points, I'm more likely to trust you if I feel like I know you. You don't have to put pictures of your kids up or anything like that. It can be whatever you're comfortable with, but do make a point of making sure people know who you are, because otherwise you're not going to build up the trust.
No, you're not. I think like when with the struggling to find the time, I think different things work for different people. Like I originally started trying to do all my content a week in advance, so I'd block out, like a block in my diary. But actually, what's ended up working out for me is just doing a post the day before. So I block out it takes me literally half hour, and I'll just sort one for my personal page. I do 3 a week in my company. So if that's due that, one for Instagram and Facebook, and maybe I'll do a YouTube short. And it does it because I've gotten the habit of it. Although that sounds like a lot, I'm much quicker now. I can just go bam, 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 bam. And I've got a list of ideas. Like you said, I just keep a note of things.
Yeah.
That works better for me. It's just finding out what works for you, isn't it? It could be that you do it in advance.
It is, and obviously doing it in advance across those platforms. There are many schedules out, Paiger being one of them. I'll move my head, but you've got Hootsuite, you've got so many out there, right? So if you want to do it in advance, you can, and there's software to support you in that. But what I would say is, again, I always come back to it. You never go into Tesco's if you're not hungry and buy something, right? You don't just randomly say I'm going to go to Tesco's. So you should never randomly go for technology either. Do you? I don't. But you don't randomly buy technology, right? You need to have a pain point that you're looking to solve. So try doing it yourself. Try carving out that time. Try coming up with your own ideas. Try all of those things before you perhaps look elsewhere, whether that's software, whether that's outsourcing, whether that's hiring. I always think as a small business owner, you should hire for your weaknesses, right? You shouldn't really hire for your strengths because you've already got that covered. So I would try and identify the weakness, and then you need to solve it, whether that's technology, hiring, or outsourcing, but always find the need first.
Yeah, because you might start doing it yourself and think, oh, actually, I'm quite good at this. I like doing it. But then you might try it and think, I can do it myself and I am making time. But I don't really want to do it, so I will go and outsource it and get someone else to do it for me. Or you might, yeah, there's loads
Yeah.
of options, but yeah, I think you're right. You've got to try it. I think when you try it yourself first as well, you get an idea of how you want your content to look, how you want it to sound and feel. So when you do outsource it or use tech for it, you've got an idea of how you want to continue with those sort of themes.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing
Almost.
is control, right? We speak about time, we speak about money, but actually control is quite a big thing for a business owner. I know I'm a control freak, and I'm not afraid to
Same,
admit that.
guilty.
Right. So the idea of actually giving someone else the keys and saying, "Here, post for me," actually, I think it goes against what a business owner wants, right? And it goes against a personal brand. It's meant to be your personal brand. I think what you
Yeah.
need to find is something that's going to help you achieve your goals, but solve the time and money issue, right? And I think you just got to collaborate with the right person, the right technology to do that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to come back to you for a top tip in a second. But I just wanted to do a quick roundup of the next show. So I've got Barry Cullen coming on with me. I've wanted to get Barry on for a while because I have never done a show around the kind of legal side of recruitment. So we are going to be talking about, so it's 2nd of October, normal time, 12:30. And we are going to be talking about how to combat recruitment debt wars. So it's, how, if anyone knows Barry, they'll know he fights for justice. He's the recruitment. He sort of did a post today. He's the recruitment world superhero, Superman, I think he put on there or something like that. So I'm really excited for this one because there is nothing worse when you've got a small business or even any business than people not paying you. Like, it's horrible. So yeah, and at the moment with how our industry is, invoices need to be paid and we deserve to be paid as well. So Barry's coming on. It's going to be a great show. Keep an eye out for the event being shared and sorted next week, and you'll get invited to it as normal. So that's the next show. So I'm going to come back to you. We started talking about this briefly before we went live, but your top tip, which I love, is get over yourself. So talk to me about this one.
Yeah, and just for the record, Barry is fantastic. So make sure you do tune in next week. He's an absolute character.
Legend.
What do I mean by get over yourself? My first video on LinkedIn probably took me half an hour to record, and I ended up with a 30-second clip. So I spent half an hour.
Did you share it recently?
Maybe. It was awful, absolutely awful. But what I would say is the best thing I did was just post it, because I was in my head, I'm like, oh no, my lazy eye's showing too much, or my double chin showing, and oh no, everyone's going to comment that. They didn't, right? I think I got one comment from my mum to say, great video. So I was like, thanks, mum. Really appreciate it. Right. But what it did was it got me over it. I put myself out there. And by putting myself out there once, the next time I did that video, it was 5 minutes. And now actually I've got to the point where I've got a one-take rule. People want to see people. They don't care if you may mispronounce a word, just carry on. So actually a one-take rule, get over yourself, just put it out there. For me, is probably my biggest tip. And video is the best type of content. We speak about people buy from people. They want to see you personally. The way to do that is video. They can see you. They want to get to know you. So yeah, just get over yourself, record a video. If you're sitting there thinking, oh no, I'm connected to some friends from school, what are they going to say? Well, if you're thinking like that, they're not actually friends, right? So just get over it.
Should be supportive.
Everyone should be supportive. So get over yourself, get it out there. And if you get negative comments, just block them. That's why there's the unfollow button. Just block them. And if you think they're your friends and they're not being very nice about it, then they're just not friends. Sod them.
Yeah. Like I think that honestly that tip was, I remember my first YouTube video, 2021. I hadn't had my hair, eyebrows or anything done for months because we were in lockdown, so I didn't look great. But I remember obsessing over the editing. And in the end, I was like, oh, just get it posted. And that's on there for life. That's not disappearing. It's still on there. Yeah. It's still there. I've never had any negative comments about it. People just consider what you're saying.
I mean, like if you're concerned about your eyebrows,
the value.
The size of my eyebrows, you shouldn't be concerned about yours.
You've got a nice arch, though. I like the shape of yours.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
There's nothing worse than being. I remember, like, the fashion when I was younger. Was you overpluck your eyebrows, so you have like a line. Growing these bad boys back has been the bane of my life for years. So if I could have eyebrows like yours, I'd be loving life.
You are welcome to them anytime.
But
I feel
yeah,
we might go on
like
a slightly off topic.
a little bit off topic, but basically, yeah, don't overthink it. Just get over yourself. And Van's commented, I needed to hear this. I think a lot of people need to hear that sometimes. Like, don't worry, just get the content out there. You'd be often you're surprised, aren't you, with actually the response you get over something you've obsessed over and think is not that good. People are fine with it.
And you've got a diminishing ROI. If you're spending 30 minutes on a video, was the video going to give you ROI? No. So spend the least time possible to get good content. Doesn't need to be perfect, good content, and get over yourself.
Yeah, love it. Well, that rounds us up nicely. That went so fast. So fast. We're already at 1 o'clock. So for anybody watching, connect with Darren. He's on the LinkedIn live event, so it's easy for you to link in with him. If there's any questions you wanted to ask, chuck them in the comment section. You can do that on YouTube as well, by the way, if you're watching this back on YouTube. You can stream this again. So if you want to remind yourself of any of the tips, you can watch it on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you want a demo of Paiger, the best thing to do, isn't it, Darren, is go on the website to get that sorted over contacting you directly. Is it just like a booking form or something that people fill in?
The big orange button. Click the big orange button. If you could say you heard about us on this podcast, that would be great. Just because our marketer does like to know where people come from. It keeps him up at night if he doesn't. But I really appreciate it. If you want to look at Paiger, please do go to the website. And we're all about helping new businesses, startups be consistent on the likes of LinkedIn.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, everybody that's watched today live, thank you so much. Remember to come back 2nd of October. I've got Barry Cullen on. And like I said, connect with Darren. Free trial of Paiger on the website. Any questions, chuck them in the comments section as well. But it's been so nice having you all here today. I will see you in a couple of weeks. Take care. Bye.